Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon to everyone in the Eastern Standard Time Zone. Good evening to those who are on the other side of the world. And good morning for those who are a few hours behind us. You are tuned into another episode of JQLM Radio Community Corner with your girl, Lady J, right here on JQLM Radio, a division of Ego Entertainment Network. And we have another special edition here on JQLM Radio's Community Corner, the re-up edition. I have been interviewing those who have been nominated for the re-up experience, the re-up awards. You all have been seeing it everywhere this year. From the beginning of the year up until now, you all know that we are working on finalizing a date. It has been more challenging than I thought it would be. So, but that's okay. As you all know, we will continue with all of the things needed to, work our way up to that date. So it's still going to happen. We just don't know the exact date yet. And in any shape, form, or fashion, we just going to make it do what it do. You know how we do. We roll with the punches. So with that being said, before I introduce my guest for this episode, of course, we must get those formalities out of the way. So if this is your first time tuning into JQLM Radio, and you would like to share with other people how they can do so, this is how. If this is your first time tuning into the show or to JQLM Radio and you would like to share with your family, friends, and followers on all the different ways that they can tune in, be sure to tell them to download the JQLM Radio app on their Apple or Android devices. You can also listen live to JQLM Radio 24/7, 365 via Amazon Alexa, TuneIn app, the Stream and Simple Radio app, and a host of other platforms of which you can find located on our website, where you can also listen live at egoentertainmentnet.com. Also, don't forget to follow, like, and share us. We do follow back. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at JQLM Radio. You can also connect with Ego Entertainment Network at EgoEntNet. That's EgoEntNet on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter also. Also, connect with us on LinkedIn at Ego Entertainment Network. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share our YouTube channel, Ego TV Network, at youtube.com/Ego TV Network. All right. So even though y'all know I'm live, yes, I use this for these shows as well. I know that a lot of you all know how Trosh, who is the host of Between the Lines, you all know how he does not like to share with everybody how to tune in. He says it's too much to say. So I just decided, hey, I'm just going to record it for everybody so they can use it because it's a lot. But with that being said, I want to introduce my guest today. Actually, we go way back. I actually know him from school. So way back. I'm not going to tell you. Well, you already know really how old I am. But you all know him from the streets, not like that. Okay. He does a lot of community service, a lot of community work. And if you are here in Indianapolis, Indiana, or in the Midwest, then he is about all things Black, okay, and education. And I have enjoyed watching him grow in his journey to pour into the African American community, as well as within our school systems, all the way up to college, okay, college education as well. So, with that being said, our guest today is none other than Dominic Dorsey. He is the founder of Don't Sleep. It's a nonprofit organization, and he has been nominated for Bounce Backologist of the Year for the Re-Up Experience. Let me tell you all, he came back with a vengeance after this pandemic to help Black businesses, okay, get back up on their feet, okay, like out of this world. So let's welcome Dominic to the show.
Hello.
Hey, Dominic, how are you?
I am blessed and highly favored, as they say in the church.
I know.
Happy to
Right
be in the house one more time.
After you said that, I wanted to say, first, giving honor to God, who is the head of my life.
Pastor, usher board, nurses board.
Yeah. So, real quick before we get into it, can you tell everyone just a little bit about yourself? Give a little bit of background, where you're from, what you like to do in your spare time, and what do you do?
Yeah, so I go by many titles. I am referred to in many circles as Lord Dominic Dorsey. mostly because I work in higher education and I refuse to be the only one without a surname. So when I'm introduced alongside vice chancellors and doctors, I do make sure that they refer to me as Lord Dominic Dorsey. I own land in Scotland, so I can even put it on my passport in case somebody try to check me. I also go by the Jock Too Cool for Sports, also known as 250 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal. And in some circles, I am referred to as El Guapo Diablo. More importantly, I refer to myself as a father, a husband, and a community organizer. I'm just someone who is really passionate about serving my community, about creating spaces and being authentic as humanly possible, creating spaces where we could be unapologetically Black. I'm tired of tone policing. I don't code switch, and I refuse to do so even in a corporate setting. And I'm always very conscious of the fact that there's interpretations of what it means to be Black, that there's interpretations of what it means to be a good, quote unquote, type of Black person. And I'm just not interested in appeasing white gaze. So I want to create spaces where we can uplift African-American experiences, we can support each other economically, that we can love on one another, that we can support one another, that we can do that restorative healing work that comes along with Black joy. So I've spent a lot of time doing activism. And I moved from activism, which I feel like is very reactive in a lot of senses, to community organizing. So where we're not asking anybody to help us out, we're helping ourselves. So whatever that means, whatever that looks like, I'm not going to ask for a handout, but I'll give my siblings a hand up. And we've been doing that since, 2016, a little bit before that. And every year we've, created more partnerships and created more family members and created more community. And I'm just blessed to be a part of it and be able to witness it and speak to lovely people like yourself.
Awesome. Well, I mean, shoot, that's the show. He basically just covered everything I was going to ask about.
Y'all used to work in radio, so I'm used to having like a finite amount of time. I got to get everything in there. So my apologies.
No, you're fine. So tell me what, because we know that when we were in school, it's a whole lot different now than than what our children are experiencing today. Tell me, after you finished school, what made you transition into activism and then starting the nonprofit Don't Sleep?
So I think a lot of it for me started with when I had kids. You mentioned it, you hit the nail on the head. It's a lot different out here than it is, or than it was for us growing up. I have a son, he's 10, he's on the autism spectrum. I look at stories where, young Black boys are being extrajudicially murdered at the hands of police. I look at Tamir Rice. I see video footage of a child playing with a gun, and being shot down before he even has an opportunity to react. And I think about my kid who is deemed by many people to be nonverbal, although he speaks when he wants to. He stims. So, he moves fast. He doesn't necessarily respond to commands, and he's prone to run. These are all things that terrify me about any situation where my son may be in, direct communication with law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of lended my attention to the Black Lives Matter movement. And we had been organizing around that before it was even known to be the Black Lives Matter movement. Back when we, first heard about Sean Bell, back when we first heard about Oscar Grant, even when we talk about the Gen 6, we had been organizing around that when I was an undergrad in IEPUI, but there wasn't a hashtag. There wasn't a social media association around activism like there was 2016, 2017. So the origins of Don't Sleep were when I moved back to Indianapolis from Michigan. We got a group of us together. There was like maybe 3 or 4 of us. It was Michelle Clegg and Starmisha Jones. And we met up at the library and said, hey, we're going to organize a march for Tamir Rice. Went downtown, did all the social media pubbing, reached out to folks. And I think that there was maybe 8 of us walking around downtown around the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. Well, fast forward to RFRA, when there was all of the hoopla around the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And I reached out to one of my other friends, Alice Jones, who was working with me at IEPUI at the time. I was like, hey, we want to really organize around RFRA. There's some issues that are directly impacting the LGBTQIA community, but there's also issues that are impacting the African-American community, the Latinx community, like the faith-based community. We all need to be kind of organizing around this. And by the time we got together with P Flag and everyone else, there was like 30,000 people downtown on the steps of the Indiana State House.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole time we're out there, I'm just thinking, how can we get this massive group of people to be as intimately invested in Black Lives Matter, as in DACA, as in women's rights? Like, oppression is inextricably linked. And if you're not fighting for the liberation of other people, you're fighting for your own privilege. So with that in mind, and knowing that we need root solutions to these problems of oppression that have existed for hundreds of years, I really wanted to kind of create an organization that had all of those different layers of oppression, different identity-focused areas of subjugation in mind. So when we came up with the acronym for Don't Sleep, I actually first pitched it to a group of pastors. Dr. David Hampton was the pastor of Light of the World Christian Church at the time, and he kind of clued me in that there were going to be a meeting amongst pastors about wanting to do something similar, maybe not something identical, but some type of organization where they were going to collaboratively attack social injustice. I pitched him. I was like, here's the name of this organization I want to do. You can use it here. Maybe this will be a great place to start. So I was on a Zoom call and I couldn't see everybody, but I could hear everybody. And he's like, oh, we hear some names of some organizations. And one of them is Don't Sleep. It stands for Deconstructing Oppression Now Through Solidarity, Liberation, Equity, Empowerment, and Perseverance. And I think it's a dope acronym. And he says it out loud and it was silent. And one of the other pastors in the room said, well, who came up with that? And they said, oh, it's Dominic Dorsey. He's a graduate student at IUPUI. He said, oh, that sounds like something a graduate student would come up with. And everybody just started busting out laughing. I'm like, a joke to me. Like, this is something that's serious that we could actually be moving the needle with. So like, okay, so that's not the group that I need to be building with.
Right.
So I built with people like Angie Alexander, with people like, Eric LaSure and Brandon Randall, people who were making moves in specific areas, whether in the faith-based community, whether in the youth atmosphere, whether they were working with family rights and equity. And we just developed these pillars and ways in which we were trying to literally impact a massive amount of social injustices, but together as opposed to separately, and looking for ways that we could be linked. That went on for a good amount of time, up until like the heights of Black Lives Matter, in terms of everybody in the streets marching. And to be completely frank and honest, it became a situation where everybody wanted to be Black Lives Matter. Everybody wanted to have, or to organize a march or to be in the streets. There was a lot of people, not all people, but a lot of people who confused who they were with what they did. And the cult of personality kind of took over, and they wanted to be known as the person with the bullhorn, or the person getting the newspaper clippings and stuff. And I was in the news, but I wasn't interested in it.
Right.
It wasn't something that I was seeking. So it's like, you know what, y'all can have that. And I got tired of screaming at buildings where people inside wasn't listening, or people wasn't there at all, quite frankly.
Exactly.
So it's like, how many times can we do the same thing expecting a different result? They were marching in the 70s. They were marching in the 60s. We can march, we can protest, and disruption has a place if you're actually disrupting something. If you're disrupting, they don't care.
Yeah, exactly. I want to interject there real quick, because you said something when you were talking about, and we're going to go over time clearly, but whatever, it's a good conversation. So, and it's my platform. So, but you said something when you were talking about the marching in the 70s and 80s and things of that sort. So I want to just say, while marching does have a place, there has to be some action behind it. And the difference between when they marched then and when we march now is they actually took action. We are not in a position as a whole, as far as a community mentally, to be able to execute what they did. They boycotted and walked to work, walked to, everywhere. The buses, when Rosa wouldn't give up her seat, they boycotted the buses for a very long time until they got what they wanted. Once they started hitting, America is built off of power and money. If you can, put a big hit, put a big old dent in their money or in power, they will do whatever it is that you want. And we are not, as a collective, we haven't gotten there yet. We're not there. So
yeah, I mean, economic violence is effective. Like even when
Exactly.
you talk about RFRA, like the whole reason why the Religious Freedom Restoration Act failed is because they were threatening to boycott some of the biggest companies downtown. Like once they were like, Salesforce can't get into our business. And it was like, well, wait a minute, like hold on, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
When you start protesting finance, the Final Four, and it's right downtown during the height of civil
Right.
unrest, that gets people's attention. If you
Hmm.
want to get 2,500 people, 6,000 people marching through the streets, then
Hmm.
what? What are you shutting down? You could tear up stuff.
Yeah.
They'll rebuild that. But what are you physically changing? Like, what are you disrupting to the point where you capture people's attention so severely that they have no other option than to give in to what it is that you're asking
Mhm.
for? And I'm not saying that the protests recently haven't been effective in pockets,
Hmm.
but I'm saying that it's gotten to a point where they're ready to ride out that wave. They're,
Exactly.
they're, they're not concerned. It's like, okay, I'm gonna let them
Right.
have their moment, and then we're gonna go back to business as usual. So I could either fight with folks or I
Hmm.
can build with folks. And I would rather build with my people. I would rather, reach out to people like Sabeko or, Gerard, who's got, Soulful Gardens. Hey, how can we teach our people how to grow their own food?
Hmm.
Right? Like, how can we teach our people how to be better entrepreneurs and put a rocket ship on their back? How can we build a corridor of businesses so we can barter for the things that we need and we don't have to worry about anybody being poor or hungry or experiencing homelessness? That
Right.
to me is a much more fruitful endeavor
Hmm.
than arguing with people who already see me as less than. And
All
then
right.
I'll be at the point where I don't need you. So
Right.
it shifted from, yelling in the streets, being the guy with the bullhorn, don't sleep means no justice, no peace means we're going to know justice because we know peace, because we're educating our youth, we're investing in ourselves, and we're building our communities on our own.
Right. Absolutely. So let's talk about the block party. And you just started here recently, something called the Blacktoberfest.
Mhm.
So can you talk about that a little bit and tell everyone what that is?
Yeah. So the block party started off as the Black owned business block party. And we did that the first one in 2016. This would be our sixth iteration that we just had this past August. It's always the first Saturday in August that we host that. And it started off just being, something where we were lamenting and reminiscing on what it used to be like to go to Expo. Like you mentioned, we went to school
Right.
together. We were around the same age. It used
Yep.
to be like you would plan your outfit, you
Yes.
would plan your like who's driving, who got
Yes.
a hotel. Like that was the conversation about going
Mhm.
downtown to be seen during Expo. And same thing with Classic to an extent, right?
Mhm.
And it just got to a point where we missed that. And
Right.
people wasn't vibing with Expo the same way that it was. We were being heavily
Mhm.
policed. We were feeling like we were being pushed out of downtown.
Yep.
Exhibit hall wasn't hitting the same. We couldn't walk around and just congregate. So it's like,
Mhm.
what if we would have just a concerted space to do that? Like, what if
Mhm.
we just got a bunch of Black owned businesses and we just built our own like setup? Like literally, once again, building with our community. And shout out to Brandon Cosby over at Flanner House. He was like, I want you to do it here. And he saw the vision. He didn't ask me for a dime. He didn't ask for anything other than for us to commit to doing it there because once again, he's also invested in Blackness, Black people, Black commerce. So we've been doing it there. We started off with, I want to say maybe 50 businesses in 2016, and we had 150 businesses this year. And looking to expand it and get bigger and provide more resources because it's not just about having a flea market for Black folks, right? It's
Right.
about offering opportunities to people who don't have a website, a brick and mortar establishment. These are folks who are selling out of their cars, who are,
Mhm.
cooking out their kitchen. How can we get you from, whipping good, baked goods in your kitchen to having a commercial kitchen, having an LLC, having, a trademark, being able to sell your goods in a store, selling your
Right.
goods in Cleo's at Flanner House, right? And we've
Mhm.
been able to see the growth of these businesses to do just that. So having that type of turnaround, seeing the growth of these businesses, seeing them evolve and thrive is the reason why we keep doing it. And also providing opportunities for people to get, free health checks, to, do their voter registration, to give book bags back to the kids before school. As much as we can sneak in terms of resources, knowledge, and capacity building into these events, that's what we do.
Mhm.
And then transitioning into Blacktoberfest, I'm an October baby. I love fall. I've got on my official Blacktoberfest apparel. Like, it was one of those, what if we had a Black AF beer garden where we did the same thing? Like we're, promoting Black owned businesses. We're promoting the arts. We got some amazing performers that's going to come on stage and perform. We got some
Mhm.
great food trucks. The food trucks that we got, the Black owned food trucks, the fair ain't got nothing on us. So we're going to be out there with the food and everything. We got, black owned wine vendors, black owned bartenders, black owned liquor and elixir companies. Like, we're gonna bring all them in one place and just again be unapologetically black, loving our melanin under the hue of overhead hanging bulb lights and neon signs at night, outside, no police, just us loving on one another. And it's a beautiful experience. Never felt so warm as I did out in the cold amongst my people. And it's a great experience.
Awesome. Awesome. Being, I think, still the only black owned multimedia company here in the city, really almost in the Midwest, I think.
Shout out to
And I've
you.
had to shut down twice and
Mm,
rebuild due to health issues, severe health issues. God is good, and I wish I could be there, but we have a prior commitment to a red carpet event. So,
it's
um,
all good.
I
Hey, but you
I
out there,
love to I built this platform
right?
also to support black owned business and small businesses, to be the launching pad, to give them access to I just think it's so awesome what you're doing, because I wanted our people to have access to the things that other businesses or those in the Caucasian community or Asian community and stuff have, like advertising on television, major networks, or in radio. Some people don't have $500 to run a commercial for 2 weeks.
Right.
So, that's not affordable for people that are just starting out. To be featured in magazines and things of that sort, like all of that stuff, aside from the community work, that I've done a lot. I just think that it's important for them to have the holistic opportunity to come together, as you said, to grow and be able to move products and or services into buildings, and to network and gain mentorship, or business services and things of that sort. And that's another reason why business bangers exist too. So I think that what you're doing is awesome and amazing. And this being the re-up edition, that is in essence what that is, helping them bounce back, especially after the pandemic,
Yeah.
because a lot of people had to stop and get jobs, stop their side hustles, to get jobs to pay bills and things of that sort, or had to shut their some of them did have brick and mortars and they had to shut down.
Yeah.
So being able to create spaces and places and opportunities for them to be able to pivot and relaunch, is very much needed, in our community.
And
So
even those businesses that didn't have a business altogether, like some of these
yeah,
businesses were born out of the pandemic, right?
absolutely,
It's like, I'm
absolutely.
sitting at home, I'm about to start my jewelry company, or you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm a dabble in graphic design, but you know what? I may as well go ahead and get my degree. I'm gonna go ahead and open up that child care center that I
Yep.
always wanted to do.
Mhm.
So we've seen a
Absolutely.
boom of black-owned businesses, and then
Mhm.
they come to these events, and it's like, where you get your tablecloth from? Oh, you
Mhm.
got a pop-up banner. I need to get one of them. Or
Mhm.
so how do you get like, oh, so you got that set up with like literally the networking
Mhm.
alone is, invaluable to so many of these businesses because they don't know what they don't have and they don't know what they don't know. And
Right.
being right next to a booth that's got like bells, buttons, whistles, boom, pows, like
Yeah.
I'm gonna come back and I'll be ready. Like I'm gonna
Yeah.
get that. So watching them like go from one year to the next is like, oh, you showing now. Okay, I'm
Mhm.
with it. How much
Ab
did you make today? More than I made all last month.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's just, it's awesome. It's wonderful. So, as a leader, I would say, um,
I wouldn't.
to as a leader, because there's a difference. I tell people all the time, y'all forgive me now, I'm about to sound like the a business developer that I am, but there's a difference between a manager, a supervisor, and a leader. One micromanages, and one only does what's needed. They dictate, and a leader, they apply themselves and lead by example. They're not afraid to get afraid to get their hands dirty, and they take responsibility and accountability and hold those people accountable. So, and I say leader because that's what I see when I see you move in, move the way that you move in all of these spaces and places and different circles for the community. So, my question is, as a leader, tell me what has been the most challenging thing to you as far as bringing everyone together And how did you overcome that? Because I know that it was not an easy feat.
Um, I will say I don't necessarily consider myself a leader. I appreciate and I receive everything that humbly, and I completely respect your perspective and point of view. I have a hard time with that label because all I seek to do is serve, and I'm not saying that to be whatever, but it's like I feel like so much of what I do is for selfish purposes, because it fills my cup, right? So I do what I do because it feels good to know that in some way, shape, or form, someone else was helped. I don't make a dime off this stuff. I don't know if this is going to be my stairway to heaven or not, but when all is said and done, no matter how exhausted, no matter how much miles up and down the road from St. Louis to Indianapolis are burnt up, I feel good when it's done, and I feel like I have enough energy to go ahead and do it again. Um, if I can attribute anything to being able to build collaborations with other people, I think people respond to and resonate to someone who's not willing to or would never ask anyone else to do something that they wouldn't do themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to dictate. I don't, see myself as bigger than or better than anybody else. I'll build with whoever I can build with the caveat of saying, all skin folk ain't kin folk, and
Right.
everybody violent. Right.
Absolutely.
So there are some folks where hey, maybe I just ain't meant to play in the same sandbox, and that's cool. And there are other people. We're not the only people in the city who do festivals or events or anything along those lines. And everybody else, God bless you. I wish you well. Sometimes we can collaborate, sometimes we won't. There's no beef there, but there's those opportunities where there are people who's like, I believe in what you're doing. I want to coincide. I want to run along that. Hey, cool. Or they say, hey, I like what you're doing. Can you come over here and run alongside this? Cool.
Mhm.
And then there's other people that's like, hey, you in the way of what I'm trying to do. You blocking.
Right.
So if there's anything that I struggle with, I'm getting up there in age. Eventually I'm gonna sit down and be done with it. I said I was sitting down a while ago, and then I wound up picking it back up. Like I said, it's selfish, right? So
Uh,
I don't want to be one of the old guard members that's like, we looking for a handoff and you to hold up.
mhm.
So I don't want to be that impasse where people is like, hey, they really need some new leadership over there. I wish you would just sit down somewhere and let some of these young cats take over. So as soon as I start hearing that type of talk, then I'll get out of the way. And being able to recognize that and understand, the sun is set on the time of you being in this position, and it's time to let somebody else kind of run with the ball.
Mhm.
That will be the struggle, is to let go of that and just be okay and sitting there and watching somebody else do it, because it's like my baby. This is what I do, right?
Mhm.
Uh, but as long as I continue to humble myself, be available to other people in whatever capacity that my body will allow,
Mhm.
and keep God first and all that other type of stuff. I think that people resonate with that. I think that people want to be a part of that. And as long as people find value in what we do, we'll continue to collaborate, continue to build community.
Absolutely. And, I can identify with the quote unquote uh with the quote unquote issue with the titles, because I tell everybody I'm a servant before I'm anything. So being a community servant leader,
Mhm.
I guess I could say that a community servant leader would then be more befitting, description of what you do and who you are to your community. So, and within your community. But if you could share, as we wrap up, if you could share one thing with someone that may be, struggling with, let's say, leaping, out on faith to go after what it is that they want to do. Someone who is struggling in the nonprofit sector is, as well, because let's be honest, nonprofit work is very difficult. I know firsthand. I
Very much
have
so.
served the homeless in this community since 2010, um and at risk youth, and that is my passion. That's what I love to do, and it is not easy, because it's not based off of income.
Nope.
And if you are not one, I don't know about you and your nonprofit, but for those who are watching, I tell my clients, my business clients, all the time that when it comes to nonprofit, you do not want to run solely off of grants, because they're not always guaranteed to you. And if you don't have grants, then you don't have the money to do. So you have to create a a means of income consistently, or of in-kind donations to meet the needs that you um that you need, the items that you need in order to serve your community or whatever it is or whoever it is that you're serving. So,
Right.
if you could, what would you say to those people that are struggling with, just leaping and going after it?
So a couple of things. First, I want to make sure I clarify. So Naptown Don't Sleep is not a non-for-profit. We don't make a profit, but we don't
Okay.
have a profit status. Like we don't make any money. So every dollar, every cent that comes in, it goes either right back into the community or into the event so that we can make sure that it's successful and safe and
Okay.
restorative for everybody involved. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I would say is the same thing I say to my students. My 9 to 5 is I work with students with disabilities. I'm the director of the center that provides accommodations at a college.
Mm-hmm.
People like to hem and haw about stuff, and it's difficult to figure out when to, make, you mentioned making a leap.
Mm-hmm.
The hardest part about building a boat is always putting the sucker in the water. You can check for holes. You can, you'll never know if it float until you actually sit it on the lake, right? So sometimes you got to put it out there. Sometimes you got to make sure that, you just have to have that trust and faith in yourself. You have to, know that God put something in your belly and nobody else's for a reason, for a purpose. Right. That doesn't mean that you don't measure 3 times and cut once as opposed to cutting 3 times, especially when you're building a business. You want to, hey, check out TMA law, make sure that you got your stuff in order before you putting out a product that somebody else will snatch. Right. Or that you ain't claiming something that someone else already got a trademark for, make sure that you got your ducks in a row, that you got an LLC, that you got your, your paperwork in place. Make sure that you're keeping track of your books because, IRS won't have.
Absolutely.
So you do all that work, but you just do it because you'll sit there and talk about what you shoulda, woulda, coulda until the time. But at some point, you got to put your big person panties on, your drawers, your underoos, what have you, and say, I'm going to do this. Because you'll look up one day and someone else will have done it and you'll know in your heart that you could have did it better. So if I got any advice for anybody, it's get out of your own way and trust your instincts, trust the fact that you were created to be beautiful and wonderful and unique and nobody else can do it like you. So don't deprive the world of your gifts. Go out there and get it done.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to piggyback off of that. Do everything he said in that order. and on top of that, stay consistent.
Absolutely.
There are going to be times where you want to give up. I'm telling you right now, it's people. I love to talk about their success, but nobody tells you, okay, about all the obstacles and that you're going to run into along the way, and all the different times that you're going to want to give up. You're going to want to quit, but you can't. If you want to see the fruits of your labor and of all the time and energy and money and blood, sweat, and tears that you put in. So,
and businesses don't really make money that first year. So
yeah.
you're going to have a whole lot of moments.
Not within the first 5 years. Usually you ain't really making no big profit. I'm going to tell you that right now.
You do good to be in the black. You expect to be in the red, right?
Absolutely.
So you have to be consistent. You have to stick with it. And you can't compare yourself to what everybody else is doing.
Right.
Because especially when you talk about social media, you think people be lying on their relationships. They be lying on their business.
What? I tell people all the time, I may look rich. Y'all see me out here in all these different places, but I promise you, I ain't nowhere close.
All that glitters is not gold. So, you got to have them blinders on and focus on the race that you're running and win that joker. It's a lot that goes into it. It's going to be ebbs and flows. Remember, there's no such thing as work-life balance. It's just a series of negotiations. You're going to have some wins, you're going to have some losses, but just stay in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I will say too, make sure that you are building relationships. Sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Always.
Okay. Listen, relationships can put you in front of people and in places that you're not even qualified for. And let's just say God is behind that. But relationships are extremely important and they hold more value usually than the dollar. You can learn as long as you remain teachable and coachable, that will take you far and allow you to make the money and the profit that you want. And lastly, I'm going to say, don't chase the bag. Okay. Because if you chase the bag, you can always be chasing the bag. Chase purpose and let the bag chase you. Okay. So, Dominic, can you tell everyone what's coming up next? What's next for you? And then how can people support you, connect with you, and follow you?
So next up is one of my favorite events. They're all my favorite, just a different type of year, right? But like October is my month, right? So Saturday, October 22nd, 2022. We're going to be at 1544 Columbia Avenue, same location as the inaugural event, but it's Blacktoberfest 2022. Amazing food vendors, 100 Black-owned vendors. Sip and Share wine is the official wine of Blacktoberfest. Phases by Phases, official elixir of Blacktoberfest. We got Bashir Assad performing. We got Megan Simonton performing. We got Elenia Renee performing. It's going to be amazing. And we're just going to be out there, and we're going to support Black-owned businesses. We're going to be out there in front of them fire pits, under them hanging lights, eating good, drinking good, buying Black businesses, selling out all of that stuff. It's going to be a great night, and we're going to be out there from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. So it was an amazing experience last year. We're looking for it to be nothing less this year. And then we just right back into the cycle. So after Blacktoberfest comes the Black Business Bazaar in December at Faber Card. Then we come back with the second annual Melanin in May Festival. That's going to be a cafe. And then we do the Block Party Volume 7, and we start all over again. So if you're looking to follow me, I'm not social media savvy. I got Instagram and Twitter and all that, but I ain't never on there. So I'll be on Facebook. If you want to follow any of the events that we put on, it's theblockparty.com, indieblacktoberfest.com, melaninandmay.com, and blackbusinessbazaar.com. And you can catch everything that we're doing. Either join as a vendor, join as a food vendor, or become a performer. We'd love to have you and look forward to seeing you there.
Well, let me just throw something out there. First of all, I didn't know it was until 10 p.m. So maybe I have time to leave the and then come on over to the Blacktoberfest. I'm gonna try to rest up so I don't overdo it, for myself. But I'm in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna leave here and then go over
here. Hey, you're gonna be out there. It's lit. It's lit.
And maybe we can go ahead and Ego Entertainment can come out and do some media coverage and interviews and stuff with all the vendors in December.
That would be amazing. We would love it.
That would be great. I don't know. Maybe me and Dominic, let me just put this out there. Maybe
talk offline.
The official media. No.
Hey, listen. You ain't saying nothing but a word.
So we are Black owned, okay?
There we go.
I'm Black. No. But shout out to everything that you are doing. Y'all heard them. Go follow. Go to all of the websites, blacktoberfest.com, theblockparty.com, and theblackbusinessbazaar.com. Go check it out. And let me tell y'all, if you want to get in, you better do it as soon as he puts it out. Because when I tell you, listen, no people dang near broke the internet.
They crashed the Blacktoberfest site. I opened it up. There was 100 spaces. They filled up all 100 spaces in 45 minutes.
Listen, as soon as he puts it out there, okay, y'all better hop on it. Like, for real. So get in where you fit in, or just tell him to expand the spots. So, Dominic, I want to thank you for joining me today. It has been a pleasure. Congratulations on everything that you are doing.
Thank you so
I love to see the growth. Keep it up, keep pouring into and giving back. That's how the blessed stay blessed, and man, I don't know.
I just want to say congratulations to you and all that you're doing. Like I said, that we were both, the Black kids that people didn't necessarily expect a lot out of, expect a lot from, and look at you now. I want to be cool. I felt like I was underdressed here on JQLM radio with Lady J. I'm like, I got to get my stuff together.
Listen, have to look like somebody's CEO, okay?
Listen, we are here. We outside on the internet. But I appreciate you for giving the opportunity of creating these platforms for us to have a voice and to be recognized. And I appreciate you and want to congratulate you on everything and much success in the future as well.
Thank you. I do appreciate it. So, hey, you all heard them. Y'all go follow, like, share, support. If you are coming down, because we know that's around the time shortly after the Circle City Classic is going on. If you're going to be here in Indy and you're coming down from Chi-Town, from Kentucky, Tennessee, or wherever, because y'all know y'all be down here, okay? Those people who came through the fair, some of y'all be here for weeks after the fair is over. Make sure you go stop by and check out Blacktoberfest, okay? And is it on the calendar on Facebook as well too? Right?
There's a Facebook event. You can go to our website. You'll see the map, and you wasn't lying about folks coming from out of town. We have folks came from as far as Iowa to come to Blacktoberfest, so it ain't no joke. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be a vibe.
All right. So yeah, you all can also go to Facebook calendar, okay? And you can see those events and make sure you RSVP or so you can get a reminder or something, okay? And get it added to your calendars. All right. So and y'all say you all will see. Oh, she is so cute. Yeah, Dominic's daughter, she cracks me up. Every video he posts to her, I'll be like, oh my God, this little girl.
She is proficient in Google Home, so I got to fix her some dinner here in a second.
So make sure that you all go and support and stay tuned. Congrats again on the nomination. We have and I'm going to say this because I said this with my other nominees. We had 25 people that were nominated across the nation, and 12 of you all responded and accepted your nomination. So I thank you so much for accepting. Some people accepted after the due date, but so I just want to thank you and hoping that you do get the bounce backologist of the year, because you have definitely been helping people bounce back. And so yeah, I just really appreciate you for that and for recognizing that and allowing us to be able to honor you in that way. So, with that being said, you all have been tuned into JQLM Radio's Community Corner with your girl, Lady J, right here on JQLM Radio, a division of Ego Entertainment Network, y'all. And I will catch you all later. All right. Make sure you continue to tune in. We need those listeners. We're trying to go to Rest Trio. Okay. Love y'all. And deuces.